Joining Prime Finance Minister justifies AGYAPA royalties mining deal despite protestations by civil society and calls for its suspension.
Governments and our people get far less than what we deserve. We are placed at the bottom of the list of the beneficiaries of our own riches, whether it is gold, cocoa, timber, oil, bauxite, or diamonds.
It's also described as unfortunate allegations that the deal is an attempt at elite capture. The minority in parliament, however, insists the deal is bad for Ghana and that a future NDC government will review it with the ultimate aim of abrogating it.
The AGYAPA itself, that company, they make you look as if when you list on the London Stock Exchange, that is the activity. You only list on the stock exchange because you want to raise some revenues. Listing on the stock exchange is not your core business. And so there is a lot of opacity and misinformation on the part of government.
Also in this bulletin, the Ghana Health Service warns that disregard for COVID-19 protocols threatens the gains made so far in bringing the pandemic under control. And the Obom FAASE community, where 2 soldiers were assaulted in a land dispute, remains deserted 3 days after the incident.
Even forgot to turn off the lights.
And in business,
Aviation Minister says the Kodoka International Airport is ready for resumption of international commercial flights.
Once all done and they're ready to operate, we'll come and disinfect the airport fully and then leave it open for operations.
So are we confident that September 1 we will be able?
We are hopeful, very positive.
In this bulletin, yet another mobile money vendor killed by suspected robbers at Ejiso in the Ashanti region. My name is AISHA. Joining News Prime comes to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle on your digital terrestrial TV, because we are free to air on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Let's begin with President Akufo-Addo, who has described the tribal tie given the NPP-led administration as unfortunate. The president was addressing a Deborah of the chiefs and people of Anglo State, said the deployment of the military to the various regions cannot be described as an invasion, explaining the Volta region got just 163 of the over 1,000 personnel deployed across the country following a request by the Immigration Service. He assured the people of the Volta region they remain an integral part of the nation, adding that government will do everything possible to protect them and fulfill promises made to them.
Volta region is an integral part of the Republic of Ghana. And military deployments in the region cannot be described as an invasion. Some elements of social media went into a frenzy.
We apologize for the breaking sound. We'll try and bring you that one back. But on the issue of the Keita port, the president said feasibility studies will be completed soon to enable construction to commence early next year.
Feasibility studies by German consultants of the Keita harbor are due to be completed soon, which will enable its construction to begin early next year. To this end, I've already issued an executive instrument on the 1st of October 2018, demarcating the lands that will constitute the harbor zone. This will be a major project which will open up the southern part of the region to accelerated growth and will create thousands and thousands of jobs. Earlier in the year, before the onset of the pandemic, I toured the Volta region, just as I have been doing annually to all regions in the country. I am back again, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to come and pay homage to Thomas III, the Yawanafia of the Anglo State. Traditional ruler I respect highly, the
Former Minister for Private Sector Development and Public-Private Partnerships said the National Democratic Congress is on a mission to rescue Ghana from the jaws of corruption, hardship, and super incompetence. Dr. Rashid Pelpo says since the NPP took over the reins of government of the country, they have drawn back the clock of progress and development of the country. He was speaking at the inauguration of a 39-member WAS Central Campaign Committee of the NDC. Rafiq Salam has more.
The National Democratic Congress (NDC) in the 2012 general election won all 11 parliamentary seats in the Upper West region, except one. They ceded to an independent candidate who previously was one of their own. In the 2016 general election, the party lost 5 of the seats to the New Patriotic Party (NPP). The NDC says they are on the hunt to win back those lost seats with a strategy codenamed Agenda 1111. Agenda 1111 is also aimed at increasing the popular vote in favor of former President John Dramani Mahama to enable the party win the 2020 polls. To make their dream a reality, the party for the past few weeks has been engaged in inaugurating the various regional and constituency campaign committees for the 2020 polls. Former Minister of State in charge of private sector development and public-private partnership, Dr. Rashid Pelpo said the party is on a mission to rescue the country.
We are complete in getting our arsenal ready. We are complete in getting our soldiers ready. And we are about to go rescue Ghana from the jaws of corruption and from the jaws of super incompetence. And today, WAS Central is ready. You have made it possible for WAS Central to be ready.
Dr. Pelpo then unleashed excoriating critique on the infrastructure record of the NPP, touted by Vice President Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia.
All the dams they say they have constructed, we cannot see the dams. My constituency is WAS Central. Most of the places they say they are dams, they are simply places they removed grasses and dug out and wanted water to stay there, and water could not stay there.
So how many of them?
I cannot even count them, because now you go to a place and you find that it's dried up and you cannot consider it as a dam. I know about 3 of them, and they are not adequately prepared as dams. And I also know that we don't have a factory anywhere in WAS Central. And I also know that we have never received any $1 million
Across town, the governing New Patriotic Party (NPP) also inaugurated a 30-member Upper West Regional Campaign team. Minister for Inner City and Zongo Development, Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, noted that for the country's development to be sustained, Ghanaians need to retain the NPP in power for at least the next 24 years.
We need to break the 8-year jinx and give this country sustainable development for at least 24 to 30 years. Then in that sense, the gains that we make cannot be reversed by any government, even if they come back after 24 years. Because these countries in the Fourth Republic has been going 8 years forward, 8 years backwards. 8 years forward, 8 years backward. I don't think that it is correct for the development. And if we are going to break the 8-year jinx, it depends on 2020. Believe me, if we clear 2020, I can guarantee you that the 8-year jinx is broken.
The NPP currently holds 5 of the 11 parliamentary seats in the Upper West region. Their target for now is to annex 2 more from the NDC to become the majority party in the region.
It is not going to come easy. It has to come with a lot of hard work, dedication, commitment, zeal, and loyalty. These are the things that it is going to take for us to get the Upper West back.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam.
And Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been justifying the AGYAPA Minerals Royalty Agreement, insisting it is the best way to efficiently manage Ghana's gold royalties. At a media briefing in Accra, Mr. Ofori-Atta explained that for many years, the nation has not really benefited from its gold minerals, and that the deal will be the game changer. Joining us, parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has been following the discussions on the deal right from the legislature and also at the news conference addressed by the minister today. And he joins me in the studio. Gakpo, what was the crux of the meeting today?
So essentially, Colonel Ferrata makes the point that they are going ahead with the floating of the shares in AGYAPA in December. They think it's a good deal. It's in the best interest of the country, despite the bad mouthing, as you would call it, and Ghanaians can be rest assured that the nation would not be shortchanged in any way.
Our people get far less than what we deserve. We are placed at the bottom of the list of the beneficiaries of our own riches, whether it is gold, cocoa, timber, oil, bauxite, or diamonds. The story has been the same everywhere. This is predominantly to do with the fact that our value extraction ends at a point at which these resources leave our shores. Unfortunately, analysis undertaken over an extended period has shown that the largest increase in value occurs at exactly this point when it leaves our shores, where raw resources leaves the country and is converted into either refined products or monetizable securities. 500 times more gold is traded every day than is mined. Much of this happening in countries that have very little gold themselves. President Akufo-Addo is clear in his mind that to achieve a Ghana beyond aid, we must add considerable value to what we produce and trade.
The finance minister's briefing comes a day after some 15 civil society organizations called for the suspension of the deal. What has been his response to this demand?
So he responded to them and also to the minority in parliament. First of all, he says the minority were part of the deal all through, and they are probably changing their stance now for political reasons. And he says with the CSOs, he was coming to terms with the concerns they raised until they described the whole move as an elite capture of state resources. He's been commenting on that additionally.
Anyone, I saw one of the letters in which it talked about indecent haste and that there's no national emergency. If COVID is not a national emergency, I don't know what is. That there's a lot of, what do they call it? A lethal disadvantage to go to the stock market at this time. And this is the best time for the pricing of gold. I mean, if you don't take advantage of this, when else would you be able to? But I think, you know, that the issue that really was hurtful and made me discount the letter was when they ended saying that we are trying to stop elite capture, you know, which essentially meant that we here are doing this for ourselves and we have some shares in that. So if that frames the mindset in which it was brought, it makes it really very difficult to see whether it is genuine or it's intended. Because you've seen us operate for 3.5 years in which all we have done is to follow this Akufo-Addo plan to make sure that everybody benefits. And so to talk about elite capture was for me a very painful issue. The challenge for me, it's, you know, the opposition has been aware of this transaction since 2018 and have been part of the discussions, negotiations, etc. I can only hazard that because it's close to elections, they may feel that there's a political advantage of some sort. But it's not hasty, it's not new. And I saw some of them in the committee discussions, so obviously in which they were supportive of all of that. So there must be a new element, and the only element I can see is 102 days away when December 6th. And so, but they are doing their job as opposition, so we can do that.
Ken Oforiatta, Minister for Finance, explaining that the contract must not be abrogated as suggested by the CSOs. But one of the questions that has also come up, Gapo, is the fact that there are a lot of funds that's going to be coming out from this deal. But what exactly are we going to be using the funds for? Did he respond to that?
The Deputy Minister for Finance, Charles Mohne, responded to that. He listed 4 areas: education, health, infrastructure, and then a 4th area as where the investment will go. He's been speaking at the media briefing.
What do we want to use the money for? Really and truly, we want to focus on investing in 4 broad key areas: primary capital expenditures in education, in health, in housing, and in infrastructure. You know, we would like to upgrade existing schools in the mining areas. The University of Mines and Technology might be a good idea to maybe look to see if we can enhance their operations, maybe help them set up a jewelry training or jewelry design course, so that we can create more value add along the gold chain. But just the whole gold value chain, we want to really be able to go further up the value chain and not just mine the raw ore and export it in its raw form. We need to be able to build refineries to refine the ore and do more value add. On the health side, it's all about resilience. I think this pandemic has showed us how important it is to make sure that we have health facilities across the length and breadth of the country, and especially in these mining areas where these miners always are running at the risk of their lives in these conditions. On the housing side, I think also the pandemic has showed us the importance of housing across the whole country, and we believe that it will be a good use of the monies to support some of our initiatives in the housing sector. Then also the road infrastructure. There's a lot of roads in these mining areas. In fact, a few of the mining companies have, as part of their social corporate responsibility, done the roads or improved the roads, but also for their own use because they use them. And a lot of heavy trucks ply these routes because of these mines. And it's important that these roads are kept in good condition in order to attract investment into these areas. And I know my chairman Duka here is smiling because he's from Takwa, so he appreciates, you know, the need for all these initiatives. We also would like to support the new development bank we're setting up, which is going to be used primarily for development, and also GIF, which is the Ghana Infrastructure Fund.
And that was Duboahen, who is Deputy Finance Minister. You also asked a question about the conflict of interest because of the involvement of some politically exposed persons, the son of Osafo Mafo, and also and the cousin of the finance minister,
who works with African Legal Associates,
yes,
and that's the law firm advising.
So what answers did they provide regarding
the Deputy Minister for Finance responded to that. He said when it comes to the recruitment of Kofi Osafo Mafo, more than 30 people applied, and one of them was shortlisted. And for the law firm, it was virtually imposed on them by the London-based law firm White & Case.
My response to that, and I've asked that already, is that firstly, ALA happens to be the local partner for the English law firm that we are using on this transaction, White & Case. So they work hand in hand with them. So they came in with White & Case as their local partners. We're also using Bella, which is also another law firm. And the gentleman in question that was referred to happens to be a partner in ALA, but there are several other partners, and it's a partnership. These law firms are set up as partnerships. And in fact, the partner we're working with on this is another partner altogether, and not the gentleman in question. So really, we did not see any conflicts there at all. And to be honest, when you're working on such a transaction and you want to be listed on the London Stock Exchange, they're very particular and extremely diligent in their due diligence, even to the extent of looking at all your advisors, transaction advisors, to ensure that they're comfortable with them and are very and are clear that there are no conflicts whatsoever there as well. And also to deal with my good friend Kofi Osafo-Malfa in the selection process. We engaged as part of, when we started this in 2018, as part of the whole process, we also engaged a headhunting firm, and the firm is called Konferry, K-O-R-N-F-E-R-R-Y. They are based out of California. They are a global headhunting firm, and we asked them to help us identify and shortlist a candidate for the CEO position, for the CFO position for AGYAPA, and also for the board. And they scoured the whole globe. We said our preference for the Ghanaian, for the CEO position, was that it should be a Ghanaian, and ideally also for the chairman of the board. But we also wanted very strong operators who were experienced and had a background in mining. I think there were over 30 or so candidates that were eventually shortlisted that were brought to us. Of that, 6 were Ghanaian, and Kofi happened to be one of the 6. He also happened to be working by then with Smith. So we then said, okay, he was a good prospect, but until such time as we got to the listing stage, we would engage him as a consultant, especially then be able to exactly see if he would bring the right value to the table and was capable enough to do the job. His background was a right fit. He happened to have been in the asset management business, being a equity research analyst, covering gold and mining and energy stocks.
Now, Gakpo, you tracked the minister down yourself, and you put the same question to the minister. He has some interesting...
He had a very interesting response, and he actually asked the question in response to my question on Top Story when we spoke live at 5:30, and he said, even him, Ken Ofori-Atta, is an appointee of the president and is a cousin of the president. Does that amount to conflict of interest? Well, and then he went on to make the point that all these people who are connected with the government actually got it as a result of their competence, not because of their relationship with government officials.
Well, the minority in parliament still insists the deal is bad for Ghana and has warned it will review it should it win power, with the ultimate aim of abrogating it. Abu Jinapor is member of the Finance Committee of Parliament, also a member of the Mines and Energy Committee. Listen to him.
If you build schools, if you build health infrastructure, how do you make profit to pay shareholders? You see the deception? Schools, social intervention like schools, like hospitals. Where do you make that profit to declare dividend? And why would investors around the world invest in an SPV whose job would be to do what government of Ghana does in terms of building schools? He stated at a press conference that these 12 mining companies brings in about $150 million. If you get $150 million per annum and you want to build schools, you want to build hospitals, wouldn't you better use the money? Why do you want to send the money abroad to a company established in a tax haven and then say that that company will then bring the money back to build hospitals and schools and expect to make profit from hospitals and schools in Ghana and then go back there and pay shareholders? What kind of a nonsense story is this? Look, my brother, we are all Ghanaians and we all want the betterment of this country. This ministry under this government is being extremely deceptive. They don't want to tell you the truth, that they are borrowing money and they will service that debt with our mineral royalties. That is what they are doing. But you see, they think that they are so clever that they can dribble all of us. Okay, if they will be building schools, go and check their incorporation. Go and check their incorporation. Is that their mandate to build hospitals? Is that the mandate of AGYAPA?
If you look at it, the mineral investment, mineral incomes investment fund, it's the entity established by law. So they, of course, will take, government owns, remember, 51% of this, and so government takes back what it gets and then does the investment with it from our end.
Go and check the relationship agreement. We are giving them so much indemnity. In fact, there's even an indemnity agreement. We are even confirming that we'll deal with AGYAPA at arm's length, and that when we give them the money, they will decide what to use the 75.6% of our royalties for. So this issue of schools, this issue of whatever, is a complete lie.
You heard there John Jinapo. He's a minority member of the Finance Committee and also a member of the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament. He spoke earlier. Still to come in this bulletin, the FAASE community, where 2 soldiers were assaulted in a land dispute, remains deserted 3 days after the incident.
Even forgot to turn off the lights.
We'll bring you details plus business shortly when Sandra Peno takes over.
Time now to talk business. I am Sandra Esinam Afen. Welcome. Government has unveiled a new business regulatory reform portal to enhance provision of advisory services for the private sector. The move is aimed at bridging the information gap between government and entrepreneurs on regulatory issues. Minister of Trade and Industry, Alan Tremanti, who launched the portal, entreated stakeholders to make use of the online platform to engage government on critical policy initiatives.
The Ghana Business Regulatory Reforms Portal is an interactive platform to enable policymakers to easily consult affected businesses and individuals in a policy formulation. The project, which is a public-private partnership, will ensure an improved transparency between government and the businesses.
Importers from Vietnam now decide that they also have a set of issues. With this new system, the portal is available to you, and you can fill your comments and becomes part of the body of comments that we'll be dealing with.
Some private sector organizations like the Association of Ghana Industries and the Chamber of Commerce have welcomed the initiative. Here's Dr. Samuel Frimpong Boateng. He's a Central Executive Committee member of the GNCCI.
We realize that it's a business do better with the right policy formulations. And one of the most important things is that you must ensure that the right information is there.
Seth Chumakwabwa is CEO of the Association of Ghana Industries.
One of the key instruments that promotes a good business environment, and therefore we think it's very appropriate, especially the fact that you have the opportunity of being part of it, of getting involved, of making inputs.
Meanwhile, Trade Minister Alan Tremanti presented IT equipment to some agencies to aid in the implementation of the reforms.
The Aviation Minister Joseph Kofi Adda has affirmed the country's readiness to reopen its airports. This was after he embarked on a tour of the Kotoka International Airport to inspect the safety measures put in place to manage the COVID-19 situation amid commencement of commercial air travels. Speaking to Joy Business, Mr. Adda says the airport will undergo final testing, including a total disinfection of the entire airport in anticipation of the President's approval.
We're hoping by tomorrow everything will be set, and then depending on how the final testing takes place, the declaration will be made by the President when he addresses the nation on Sunday.
So when is the final testing?
It will be happening by tomorrow and Saturday. When they do the full-blown simulations and finish, we'll disinfect the airport totally. Because now the work is going on, you never know who's part of the work team and what they are carrying. Once all done and they're ready to operate, we'll come and disinfect the airport fully and then leave it open for operations.
So are we confident that September 1 we will be able?
We are hopeful, very hopeful, very positive. We want to make sure all the installations are done, the setup is ready, the dry test has been carried out before we do the disinfection. So that should actually be at least not earlier than 24 or 48 hours before we actually start operating. We want to make sure it's really sanitized decently enough. All the standards are being shared globally. Yes, we know it's a new disease, and all the agencies involved, all the stakeholders are doing their standard operational procedures and revising and sharing. I think at the end it would all be a collective approval of what is best suited for us to get this done. But certainly, the very final bit will be sanctioned by WHO and ICAO as well.
Now, banks are challenging claims they are not doing enough to deal with fraud cases in the sector. This is coming after new report by the Bank of Ghana cited internal banking staff as aiding fraudulent activities. The regulator accused these financial institutions of not showing much commitment in dealing with the menace, but acting chief executive of the Ghana Association of Bankers, John Ewua, disagrees. He's been speaking with my colleague, George Wiafe.
From where we sit, any fraud hitting any bank is one too many. What it means is we take it very serious when a fraud incident is recorded or event is recorded in any of our member banks, or for that reason, any financial institution. Unfortunately, because of how the report was put together, it's difficult to decipher how much of it is attributable to, of the increase, is attributable to mainstream universal banking, that is our member institutions. But that said, I would say that if you read the report critically, there are other positives that you can take away from the report. The level of success of the fraudsters has gone down by almost over 70%. Even for the active cases, which is the loss that was recorded, you find clearly that also declined between 2018 and 2019. In numbers, because it's an aggregation from microfinance, savings and loans, banks, Momo and telco and fintech operators, it's very difficult to specifically speak to which portion of it affects the bank, apart from to say that of the number of cases, 23% related to banks.
Thanks so much for your company, but I'm back after 8 p.m. with more business news updates. But after this break that we have sports news.
Thank you for staying with us on Joy News Prime. I'm Gary Al Smith, and this is The Sport. Now, first story, the Ghanaian triple jump athlete Nadia Eke has taken advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to put together a program that will help brand athletes to have from different disciplines who have had successful. Celebrated football star Didier Drogba has been told he is not eligible to stand in upcoming elections to be the next president of the Ivorian Football Federation. Now, along with many others who wanted to stand for the position, Drogba has, for the second time, not been given the nod for the post. And that's the sport for now. I'll be back for the second bite after on the next leg of the news. Gary Al Smith.
It's time for Showbiz. Becky is here with the very latest. Hi, Becky.
Hello to you, Aisha. How you doing?
I'm good. We're looking forward to VGMA.
VGMAs, right? Yeah. I can't wait. It starts tomorrow and ends on Sunday. What exactly will happen on Sunday, we don't know. But Aisha, in the report you're about to listen to, we've wrapped up everything that will happen, or that is expected to happen tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday.
And then the final. I'm looking forward to winning an award.
No.
Kofi Kinata.
Kofi Kinata.
Yes, I
hope he will dedicate the award to you when he wins.
I hope so.
Aisha, I know that you are the executive producer for the PM Express, and you guys have started...
The one and only.
Yeah, you guys have started something about tracking the manifesto.
Tracker, yes.
And yesterday, last night, the focus was on the creative arts industry. So for those of you who missed it, we have a highlight of exactly what happened and some of the punch lines and all that.
To set up large recording studios in Accra, Kumasi, Tema, and Takoradi, the Creative Arts Fund is going to come up as part of the Creative Arts Bill that has been passed by Cabinet and is going to Parliament. And of course,
that was Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia announcing the plans for creative arts sector if the NPP is maintained in the 2020 elections. This has received mixed reactions from industry players, especially with the promise of building movie theaters. Speaking on Manifesto track on PM Express on Wednesday, President of the Ghana Music Rights Organization, Rex Omar, says the NPP government has not been impressive.
That thing that they call a theater in Koforidua, in real sense, it's not a theater. Honestly speaking, I mean, look at the National Theater that we have in Accra. Look at the auxiliaries, I mean, the stage, the lighting, the PA system. This thing in Koforidua has been there for a very long time. So you've gone, you refurbish it, that's okay. If that is what you call a theater, to me it's a deception.
Reacting to Mr. Omar's claims, President of the Creative Arts Council, Marco Kwekumante, disclosed that he stopped the Kumasi Cultural Center, popularly referred to as the AGYAPA project, because of this.
It's not true.
Which is not true?
Nothing has happened in AGYAPA. I stopped it and said that I wanted us to all to make input. So I took Mr. Kwache, Frank's father, to Kumasi. We have pictures to that. So he gave us what we need and what we do not need. So we made a lot of changes. We got the contractor on ground and gave some directions.
It was really hot, but we'll be tracking more of the sectors of the manifestos of the two major political parties. So look forward to that. Some amazing things coming up.
Sure, Aisha.
And thanks so much for bringing us showbiz. For those of you watching on Joy Prime, that'll be it. The news continues on Joy News. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now to some updates on COVID-19, because the Ghana Health Service has emphasized the need for everyone to wear face masks to prevent a spike in COVID-19 cases. Addressing a news conference at the Finance Ministry on Thursday, Director General Dr. Patrick Kumabuaje says though the country's active cases have been declining steadily, there's the risk of a spike as many are refusing to wear their mask.
One of the most sensitive ones is the use of the mask. If you realize the last 3 or so weeks we have been conducting the mask wearing. In the first one that was published, we had about intention to use of about 80% plus, about 44% were using the mask appropriately. In the next slide, and the next survey that was done, this number dropped to 15%. And that means that people are dropping their guard, and all that we've done, what we are having now is because of the things we've done. So if people stop dropping their guns to stop using the masks, and about 54% of people are not wearing masks, that is a major, major worry. The following week, which is the very latest one, it dropped to 14.4% in Greater Accra. This is the epicenter. Greater Accra is the one that is driving the pandemic. And so it's extremely important that we reset and go back and start wearing the mask so that wherever we have, as the active cases are coming down, as the positives are coming down, it will continue to go down. We started with 1 case and we got to 42,000. And so where we are now, we are not, we have what's an easy calm. We need to be very, very careful. And so that is our major worry, that we need to intensify the campaign.
He gave the cumulative case count as 43,949, with 1,287 of them being active.
The situation continues to improve despite the dangers that we are facing in terms of dropping our guard. We are recording now 1,287 active cases, with a cumulative total of about 43,949 cases. 42,000 of that has recovered, leaving an active case of 1,287. We've recorded so far 270 deaths, accounting for about 0.6% of the total of at the risk. Next slide. We have so far tested about 431,272 people, and 43,000 is positive, and that brings our positivity rate about 10%. And this majority have been the contact tracing, and we also have about 1/3 of them coming out of the routine cases. That is for those who show symptoms and are tested. As you can see, the numbers, we have probably 1.5 waves. If you see, in June we had a very huge spike, but we continue to go down. And so we are very happy that if this continues, and we'll be probably out of the woods, but we have to do that by ensuring that we do what we have been doing, testing, isolating, and also applying the protocols that are needed. Next slide. So if you look at the moving averages, it continue to go down. And so we're still on the downward trend, But we need to continue and improve what we are doing to continue with that. Next slide. Yes.
Away from COVID-19, Chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, Seti Champong, has for the first time spoken about the violent clash in the Domfasi community where 2 soldiers were injured. A follow-up raid by the military saw virtually all the residents fleeing the community, which is now said to be a ghost town. The soldiers were accused of operating as land guards for a chief who was claiming ownership of a parcel of that land. Speaking on polls Thursday afternoon, Mr. Champong explained the men were deployed on official assignment as part of Operation Calm Life.
The men, that is why I used the language authorized officers. They had an authorized order to go on ground to do that exercise. And I went further to confirm, and truly and indeed, that was an operation that they had been asked to embark upon. Further to that, I want to say that, yes, it is indeed very distasteful to hear the commentaries that goes around. However, let all of us appreciate that when we come across any personnel or person in uniform, be it military, police service, as an insignia of state embossed on them, working instead of the state, that is the authority of state. And we should not appropriate powers onto ourselves and go against the authority of state. When such things happen, the state comes after signs that we just witnessed. And listening into your reporter on ground is giving us some good intelligence that as we speak, the very neighborhood that the matter broke, we do not have a police post. I'm sure it is good intelligence and good information to us.
The Domfasi community largely remains deserted 3 days after the violent clashes that left 2 military personnel battered and bloodied and 3 natives with gunshots wounds. And few anxious women and children are the only ones left in that community as a youthful male population have fled and are seeking refuge behind a mountain that serves as a physical boundary between the eastern region town of Nsawam and the Fasi community, which falls in the Greater Accra region. They tell Joy News the absence of a police post in the area has emboldened delinquent youth to perpetrate crime.
This is the contentious land. This is where it all happened on Monday between some members of the military and the civilian population of Domfasi. The youth of the town took the law in their own hands and set vehicles ablaze. You are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 vehicles were all burnt by the youth who were agitated by a chief who claimed ownership of this particular land. And the youth of Domfasi here have all fled the community, and we understand most of them have gone beyond this mountain and are seeking refuge behind the mountain. Their wives and children are the only ones left within the community. Where is your husband? So your husband is also Pupanasi. So he's beneath the mountain. Why is he there?
Because they are scared. Maybe the policeman will shoot them or something like that. That's the reason why.
Did he take part in the brutality of the military men?
Please no, he was not around. He went to work that day, so I called him not to come back because they are catching the small young men around there. That's why.
Yes, so na police station ebi mbrahasi. Saba ye youth no enu ani say enu ani ye dachi o. Na say because ama sa ntapi ni ade yi. Boys no akola kitu na say akola kitikiti no ohye on fellowship wutu wo fie kra no de na wo fie finfin na ohye enamo because the police station be eden enia.
You are looking at the canopy that has been brought down. This is one of the cars that have been burnt, and I'm looking at disposable caps. It's also been burnt, and we are also looking at some broken bottles. I see some Guinness bottles that have been broken. There you have it, some Guinness bottles that have been broken. And I must mention that this is where the military used to stay to guard this particular land. You are looking at some remnants of food items. I see some eggs that have been crushed, tomatoes, sachet water, and rice, and some other items that have been destroyed during this violence between the youth of this area and the military.
Now, the aged who depend on the youth of the FAASE community for survival are bearing the brunt, as a number of them are locked in the rooms without the usual assistance they rely on to live. Latif Idris, who just returned from the contentious land, also walked through the main Dom FAASE community, knocked on doors, and chanced on visually impaired woman in her 70s who has been left behind by her children, who have also fled the town.
I'm standing at the center of Dom FAASE, a community deserted by able-bodied men who have left behind women, children. This followed Monday's confusion between the civilian population of this community, particularly the youth, and some members of the military. All we can find are some of the pets. You would find the cats lying quietly. Their owners have fled. Cocos, I go. So nobody responding, and you will find the fowls and that have been left behind, and that is a cooking pot that has been left. This home has been deserted, and you would find that they even forgot to turn off the lights, and so the light is still on and it's running. For now, it's running 24/7. This door is opened. Maybe we are in luck. We find someone sleeping in there. Cocos. So this woman, I suspect she can't see. Visually impaired woman, and she was lying there quietly. Hello, Mom. Ofane okobeto yebie. Ame stashi. Ofane oyeni. 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 Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. She has a bit of a challenge. She's visually impaired, she cannot see, and she's the only one left in the building. So far, she's the only person we have found in the community. We've knocked on doors and gates, and all we find are pets and some domestic animals that have been left behind by members of the community who have all fled for obvious reason. Let's give a last knock and see if you'll find. There's no point in knocking because already the door is locked.
Suspected armed robbers have attacked and gunned down a mobile money vendor at Ejusu Onye in the Ashanti region. Owusu-Ejay, believed to be in his early 30s, was reportedly shot in the chest with an AK-47 rifle on Wednesday and robbed of his earnings at his duty post. It brings to 3 the number of people shot by robbers in the past 2 months in the region. Nanaya AGYAPA was at the scene in his father's report.
This is Onye roundabout, the commercial hub of the town where the incident occurred.
The suspected killers had come in to transact business. Few minutes after the transaction began, one went to the back and the other stayed here, having conversations with him. The one who went to the back demanded that he give him his bag in which he kept the money he had made in the day. Nobody can tell what exactly happened in there. But a few minutes later, the one in the front shot him and he died on his way to the hospital. Unit Committee Chairman Paul Atta tells Love News the robbers who came on foot shot randomly to scare people who came after them. Bullets could be seen on some of the buildings here.
Some people chased them because of the gun that they were holding. They gave several warning shots, which even one of them even affected the pipe around. An incident like a robbery with gun like this, in fact, it's not something that really happened over here. Previously, around the road from Ejuso to Onye, we have some bridge or that bridge over there that I've heard previously when the road was not correct. Some people also attacked some drivers over there and they shot the driver to death. Assembly member Kweku Dede, who is shocked by the incident, says they have started deliberations on how to improve security in the area.
And so we called the divisional police commander and the chief of the town and the elders and the committee member. So this afternoon we want to meet and put some measures together so that the security of Onye people should be safe.
At the family house of the deceased, many have gathered to commiserate with the family. Owusu was the breadwinner. He took care of his mother, siblings, a wife and 2 children. Police in Ejuso have visited the scene twice after the incident as part of investigations. Nana Ojima reporting.
Barely 24 hours after armed men gunned down a mobile money vendor at Onwe close to Ejuso, police have arrested some persons believed to be involved in that killing. The suspects are believed to have killed Owusu Jekum 32 with an AK-47 rifle and bolted with his daily sales. The regional police command has revealed its personnel at Kodie arrested some men who were traveling with an assault rifle in a Daewoo Matisse taxi cab with registration number AS88016. Police say evidence found so far could be linked to the killing of the mobile money vendor at Onye. ASP Godwin Ahianyo speaks for the Ashanti Region Police Command.
And when they conducted a search in their vehicle, they found some items in the vehicle, including an AK-47 assault rifle. We have done some physical examination and other evidence we have gathered so far is giving us some assurance that this suspect that has been arrested has a connection with the earlier robbery. So we are showing the general public that we are making some inroads in the appropriate time. Will come out with the full details. Also be rest assured that whoever has a hand in this very heinous crime will be arrested and made to face the full rigors of the law. He is in our custody. We are on the heels of other accomplices. So the public, as I indicated earlier, should remain calm as the command will do everything possible to get the perpetrators in all the crimes that have been committed in the region arrested.
Well, still live on Joy News Prime. We'll take a break and we'll return. There is more in business.
Welcome back to business. Now, for almost 5 years, it's had toxic loan books. For over 2 years, it has failed to publish its financial statements and at the verge of collapse. That is the story of the National Investment Bank, NIB. Despite this, government says it is committed to reviving it under the industrialized agenda. But how is that even possible when the central bank has sold NIB's 500 million cedi shares in Nestle Ghana? Banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etuahene will be joining me shortly for a conversation. First, though, let's hear from a member of Parliament's Finance Committee, Anthony Efa, who says although the bank is at the verge of collapse, government is giving it a special treat under the Amalgamated Trust.
NIB itself is at the verge of collapse. As at 2018, looking at the accounts of this bank and evaluation, there were all indications that NIB was actually collapsing. But because it's a state bank, the government is treating it differently, more like it's trying to put in every effort to ensure it survives. So the Ghana Development Bank is not going to kill NIB. Rather, government has put in place arrangements, financing arrangements, such that NIB would be revived and then they can become profitable. One thing, the first step that government of Ghana did for NIB was to swap 500 million cedis for the shares of NIB in Nestle Ghana, so that they could have immediate liquidity to operate. After a while, when they did the full assessment, they realized, no, NIB needs about 2.2 billion cedis to be able to, as it were, clean its books, to have liquidity and to meet the minimum capital requirement.
You don't think it's fair for critics to say that NIB should have been collapsed as part of the banking sector cleanup, based on what you're telling me?
For about half a decade, they were making losses, and they had wiped all their profits, their capital, and they didn't have liquidity. So technically, that should have been the situation. But government is giving it some form of treatment, financial, some special case.
Well, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Ituahine is here for a conversation, and he joins me via Zoom. Grateful for your time this evening, sir. Hello, Doctor. Looks like you're on mute. Can you unmute for us?
Right.
Great, grateful for your time. So you had the member of Parliament's Finance Committee there. Despite the toxic nature of NIB, it cannot be collapsed because it's state-owned. Is that justified?
These are what we call the regulatory forbearances. You know, regulatory forbearances is that where the stake is to go, a big stake is supposed to be used. We don't use it and keep it. For me, is one thing that it is not good for regulatory purposes. It should have been collapsed in this state of affairs, because for the last 2 years, it doesn't make any statement. The statement has not been published. And the law requires that if you don't publish it 1 year, then you should get out of business. So I'm wondering why we should be giving exceptional treatment to the state bank, which has been run down by individuals. And if I were to disclose the type of businesses they did, these people should be held accountable. I mean, but unfortunately, because they say it's a state bank, they want to push in more money there.
Yes, you spoke about more money. We currently need about 2.2 billion cedis to make NIB liquid. Based on the issues that we know exist there and what you're telling me about individuals collapsing the bank, raising this amount, is NIB that attractive, and where are we going to get that money from? At least we know that it's going to be under an agreement under the amalgamated trust.
Well, the first thing that the bank will need to do a better restructuring. I mean, NIB, I've worked in NIB for 5 years. It never used to be like that. So NIB need to be, if it's going to be one of the development banks, or it's going to be a retail bank, an investor bank, then they need to restructure it, bring more competent people, devoid of political interferences, so that they can run it and then pay whatever capital they're going to borrow to push up the capital up.
At least we know from that clip that we just watched that it's not going to be a retail bank. They want to focus on the industrial sector, as was done in the past. I mean, does that make sense to you when we now know that NIB's shares in the Nestle Ghana, which is about 500 million Ghana cedis, has been sold, yet we want to go back to the industrial sector to make it more liquid?
If I heard the Honorable speaker, honorable person who spoke. He said that they sold the 500 million in order to support them liquid. Right. But unfortunately, with the 500 million, they could see that could not just get the business going. So the question that I want to ask myself is that why didn't they do a comprehensive due diligence to find out that if you sell these 500, you're not going to meet it? Why don't you even leave it? And then when you get somebody who wants to come in, then he will take over and add a bit to it, rather than taking the 500 to just sink in. And it didn't support the business. And now we're looking for an extra 2.2 billion to support the business. And I find it just unbelievable.
Having said that, Doc, do you think now there's a new law in place that will see the establishment of the Ghana Development Bank, and that is supposed to focus on industries and then also that brick sector as well? I mean, he mentioned that yesterday. Having this new bank coming in, do you think that NIB should have been collapsed?
Well, if they want to set a new one, I would have thought that with a recapitalization of NIB, they should recapitalize it and bring competent people. I always want to talk about, development banking is about project finance, long-term, medium-term finance. It is not the ordinary retail banking. So you need people with project finance, project development, who understand project finance. Because NIB used to be one of the best banks as far as projects is concerned. But by 2003, when they started doing the relicensing of Universal Bank, they turned NIB into a retail bank. And then it ended up where loans are being given with no proper due diligence, and that we find ourselves in that situation. What I'm trying to say, if we want to do that bank, if we want to capitalize it, I insist that it should not be a politicized, it should bring competent people, task them, charge them, and say that, no, we want you to perform so that in the next 5 years, we'll be able to pay the capital back.
How about calls for NIB to look at the capital market instead of the retail market, and also? Is that the best option?
You said the NIB to look at what? To
go into the capital market.
Currently, how can NIB go? I mean, we're negative net book value. Who wants to buy something which is of no use? I'll prefer, if I had money to set it up, I'll go to Bank of Ghana, get a new license, and run it, rather than go and throw that money in already a sinking ship. It is almost sunk. So if you took the money, if you take the money, then what would you do? So who wants to invest in the capital market and the bank like that?
So that is obviously not an option. That's obviously not an option, because nobody will be interested in investing in NIB at its current state. Okay, so we also know that, yes, the state of one bank can also affect the whole sector. And so how is the the current state of NIB likely to impact on the whole financial sector or the banking sector?
I'm sure there might have been liquidity support being given to them every now, here and then. Other than that, I don't see how they will survive. So I think some emergency liquidity support is being given to them to jojo them to be able to meet the clearing, the daily clearing and what have you. Other than that, they could have had problems. They would have serious problems.
I see. Let me ask you this. I'm sure probably you're not the best person to ask to be asked this question, but with the establishment of the Ghana Development Bank, do we know the people who are writing the proposal for the establishment of this bank?
Well, I have no idea, but I always say that we have a lot of competent people in Ghana, very, very competent. And if we have competent people writing the proposal and coming out with a policy document which will be manned by competent people. And development banking, I think, is more important now in our developmental stage. Why I say that? Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in 1963 set the NIB to support industry, and then set ADB as a development bank to support agri. Unfortunately, the men of my generation think that it was of no use, so they turned it into universal banking in 2003. But this country cannot go on. No universal bank will be able to support our developmental agenda, because in the development agenda, you're talking about medium term, long term, 5 years, 15 years, and you need such money from the development market in the global market to be able to turn the thing around. So for me, I like the idea, but my only caveat, is it not going to be one of those setup where you have people who don't know what they are all about being given certain responsibility to run it? If we can get assurance that this is not going to be one of such businesses, then development banking by the finance ministry is a good idea. For me, it's a good idea. But the caveat is what I'm telling you, Esnan. We need to get away from this mediocrity performance. Then bring people with talent, skills, as we used to have in NIB. In those days, NIB was one of the best development banks in the whole West Africa. But unfortunately, we turn it into a political game and mess it up.
Interesting. So we need 2.2 billion Ghana cedis to make NIB viable and liquid. And then also, you spoke about competence, bringing in the best people to where you see. Do you think that government is committed towards that to make NIB, and should Ghanaians be worried about the state of NIB?
Well, Ghanaians should be worried about NIB because it is Ghanaians who have run it down. The loans given to them are Ghanaians, and some of them are politically exposed persons. Some of the loans they're giving to certain institutions, if I were to disclose it to you, you'll be wondering how.
I want to know though, Doctor.
No, I'll tell you. I'll give you a clue to one. $200 million cedis was given to a savings and loan company. 200 million cedis was given to a savings, and that savings and loans company has gone under.
Was A-Life part of those companies that benefited from NIB?
I'm not going to mention names.
All right.
Yes, now I won't mention names because my lawyers are not around.
All right.
If my lawyers are around, I will say it and let my lawyers defend me.
Dr. Rachel, grateful as always for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Grateful for your time. Let's go to the commodity market now and see how trading fared today. On that note, I want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight on Business. I am Sandra S. and I'm going to log on to myjawline.com/business. There's always news there for you. And then also, if you missed any of our headline stories today, you can catch it on our various social media platforms, where it's Quick Base with Sandra. Thanks so much. There we go. Grateful for your time. Have a great evening.
And it's time now for the interactive segment. And you've been following the conversation from yesterday when former President Rawlings released a statement supposed to be a response to former local government minister Kwame Ahoy, saying that there's some things he said in his book that is untrue. So he's been denying all of that. We posted that on Facebook, and guess what? A number of comments coming in, so many of them. Let's check out some of your comments there. What we posted: former President Jerry John Rawlings has fought off claims by former local government minister Professor Kwame Ahoy that he lacked a plan on how to strategically develop Ghana. And of course, the comments, 72 comments are there. Kujo Dabri says, JJ Rawlings, my sympathies. Your singular risk to yourself you undertook to overthrow a constitutionally elected government succeeded to make nobody's somebody's, only for them to stab you in the back. My sympathies. Kafri Dedome says, as for visions there, with the greatest of respect, you were clueless. You depended on your so-called charisma and brute force to achieve your objectives. I.S. Thomas says, Chairman, you had no vision for Ghana as well as our great party, NDC. The only vision you had is for your family. Best regards, says, I salute you, Uncle Jerry, every day because he put a stop to coup d'etats and brought almighty democracy that we're enjoying today. Who said this is not vision? God richly bless you and your entire generation. Eric Adwansa says, with his long reign with unfettered powers, JJ was one who should have transformed Ghana, like Paul Kagame is doing in Rwanda. Unfortunately, with democratic dispensations, no leader will have that opportunity. And JJ Kum says, look, Rawlings had no vision for Ghana, as well as the NDC party as a whole. Emmanuel Taki says that will not change the opinion we have about him. He tapped Professor Mills and JM at the back, even when both have stood by him in bad times to the disadvantage of their political chances. Barbara Boatin says, please go and ask for a fight with Ahoy. We are concerned about the looting of this government. Mohammed Kamaldeen says he had vision and brought on board many technocrats to help execute that. And Eliasa Ishahaku says, please, this is not the right time to fight. We want power, and our efforts should gear towards winning the coming general elections. Those are some of the comments there. Many of them, Sayyid Abubakar says, in the end, you will lose all the good things you have done as a president. Your holier than thou attitude is what we'll think. You're always quick to criticize others, but not having the heart and stomach to contain criticism from others. Your comment after the death of Prof. Mills still on my mind. Joseph Van Amwa says, to be frank, I think Rawlings is the most lucky man to be alive today, having escaped from firing squad. He may have had a strategy, as he claims, but the execution thereof was so poor, oppressive, and backward. He should sometimes not shout too much about corruption. And Kujo Dabre comes in to say, Rawlings' intellectual background is known then, but he is not daft. What was the role of the civilians who had higher intellectual capabilities doing in his government? Why didn't they develop a strategy for his government? Were they only concerned to exploit his intellectual incapacity to enrich themselves? We know that over 90% of them, 95% of them were paupers, but at the end of 2000, they became the nouveau rich. And a lot more of your comments on our Facebook page. So you can get onto our Facebook page. There are a number of comments there and some banters there. You can read for yourself. And so that'll be it for the interactive segment. That'll be it also for the bulletin tonight. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more news and all the updates. PM Express Business Edition is up next. Stay on the Joy News channel and enjoy the rest of our programs.